Hi, I'm Mike Davis, owner of Extra Mile Technology Services, and today we're talking about cyber insurance. Now, cyber insurance is not a fun topic because it's one of two things that you buy hoping to never have to use, the other one being a casket. So it's not really in good company. The other thing that makes it tough to talk about is even today, cyber insurance is like the Wild West of the insurance world. The terms aren't standardized, and oftentimes the agents that are selling the insurance don't really understand the terms, so they don't understand what they're selling, and that can make things difficult. With that said, I am not a licensed insurance agent, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a few of the things that I've picked up along the way filling out the questionnaires that the insurance agents are asking for in order to give you coverage so that you can ask the right questions and make sure that you're getting what you think you're paying for. Okay. Now there's four general areas that cyber insurance falls under, and they'll call all of these cyber insurance. So that's why it's important to know what they are. The first thing is the traditional one, which is a data breach and cyber event. Then there's ransomware, which has become its own category. And then the next two, the loss of funds and then situational events, those have kind of been added in recent years and um, were maybe included in the data breach policies years ago, but now are their own separate policies. So you need to specifically ask about them. So let's break this down a little bit. So the data breach or cyber event coverage typically covers paying for an attorney to see what the reporting requirements are in your state and help you navigate that. Maybe help you write a letter to all the people that were involved in the breach, a forensics team to figure out how it happened, and then helping you with the business interruption as a result of the event. Okay. All those things might be covered traditionally, probably were covered, but you need to ask. So you'll know that you've got this kind of coverage because when you are filling out the application, you'll see it mention records and asking for numbers of records. So typically, what they're looking for is how many people's names, social security numbers, credit card numbers do you have on your system so that if a hacker gets into your network and they take those out of your network, now you need to notify those people that their information has been breached on your system. And typically, you end up paying for credit card monitoring and identity theft monitoring for them for a year or two. And that's one of the things that depends on your state what the requirements are. Now, ransomware has become its own category because it's wildly expensive to pay for if there is an event. And with as prevalent as the phishing attacks and as successful as the phishing attacks are, there's a good likelihood that an insurance company is going to have to pay out on one of these. So that's why it's kind of moved into its own category. And some businesses, being a managed services provider like Extra Mile is, 9 out of 10 insurance carriers won't even cover us for this. They don't even offer it to us because our business is under such heavy attack. Now, you'll know that this is one of the things that they're looking for in your application if you have a whole section dedicated to ransomware, and then they're asking you if you're doing these different things to protect your system. Now, keep in mind, insurance companies are in the business of making money by not paying claims. So if you check no on these things, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to deny you coverage. They may adjust your rate, or they may say, hey, we won't give you coverage unless you do these things. But you absolutely don't want to check off that you're doing something that you're not, because then if there's a breach and they find out that you weren't doing one of these things that you said you were, they're going to deny your claim. So be aware of that. Loss of funds. This has typically revolves around wire transfers. Okay. And like I said, with phishing attacks being so prevalent, this has evolved into its own category. And it's really debatable if, how much of it is cyber and how much of it is just people getting tricked over email. So you'll know that the policy is looking for information for this coverage because they'll typically mention phishing controls and specifically wire transfers and if you do them and what protocols you have. Now, this is a tricky one for cyber insurance because a lot of these controls have little to do with IT. It's if you get an email from a vendor asking you to change their routing number on a wire transfer, do you pick up the phone and call that person and verify them because you know their voice that email actually came from them and that they wrote it? Okay. Now, a fourth category that's kind of been added is situational events or dependent system failure. Now, if you're using Office 365, QuickBooks Online, Salesforce.com, some of these online tools, if they go down, your business effectively goes down. When we talk to businesses about what's most important to them, a lot of the time their business revolves around email. Well, if Office 365 is down, you're not getting much done. And most of the time, Office 365 has a really good track record of uptime, much better than you can typically provide if you're running your own email system. So in that regard, it's safe. But what if the Office 365 security team determines that your business is up to illicit activity and then shuts you down and blocks access, and you're losing money because you can't access any of your stuff and get information from your clients or whatever? Do you have coverage for that? And this is a really tough thing too, because in the insurance world, they're trying to mitigate the risk, so they're going to ask you questions about if you verify their systems and all that stuff. And when you're dealing with a company as large as Microsoft and you're as a small business owner, you can't really ask them these questions. So that's a really tough one to deal with. But that's a conversation you need to have with your insurance agent about that. So, in summary, what I'd like you to take away from this is that you can't assume that you've got coverage for different events unless you specifically talk to your agent and you confirm that your policy does in fact cover you for those events. Then the next thing is, don't always assume that your agent understands all these things and all these terms. Ask them to show you where it says that in the policy so that you can both confirm that, yep, you're covered for what you thought you were. And the last thing, the worst time to learn CPR is when someone's having a heart attack. Okay? So with that in mind, you want to come up with a breach response plan when everything is running and everything is good and you're not having an event. Okay? So if you don't have a breach response plan, you can reach out to Extra Mile and we'll help you work one up. And for a small business, this is not a long document and that kind of thing. It just has some critical information in it that's going to be a starting point if you do have a breach, so that you can just work through that and know that you've got everything covered. Thank you and have a great day.